After a fantastic week in the Caribbean, we carried on from Fort Lauderdale to Oranjestad, Aruba, and finally through the Panama Canal, cruising along the Golfo Dulce. Most important on the cruise is customer satisfaction, and it just wouldn't do without having a continuous supply of food on board. Not only need there be food on board for 1,950 guests, but also for the 800 crew members. And Reggie Man and his sniff dog do an excellent job in detecting unwanted substances. For instance, there are 4,000 pounds of fresh watermelons loaded for each cruise week. Under much noise from the ship's horn, we are accompanied out of Fort Lauderdale. After our pilot is picked up, we are finally ready for our voyage to Aruba over the next 2 days. During our entire trip, we were royally entertained, not only by the ship's band, the Hellcats, but by various artists who either joined us for the whole cruise or just for one-night gigs. Aruba was Lutz's personal filming paradise with iguanas and lizards everywhere. The large and non-aggressive iguanas were hunted for use in local soups and stews until about 10 to 15 years ago. It is now illegal. In 1499, the Spanish claimed the island, but the conquistadores dubbed Aruba Isla Inútil, translated into useless island, and left. In 1636, the Dutch made Aruba into a satellite for the Dutch West Indies Company, and merchants began building Oranjestad, today's capital. In 1986, Aruba officially became an autonomous country within the Kingdom of the Netherlands. Aruba lies outside the hurricane belt, and tourists appreciate the island's reliable warm and sunny weather. The road to Alto Vista Chapel, a small Catholic chapel also known as Pilgrim's Church, that stands on the hills above the north shore of the sea, is a winding road with the Stations of the Cross along the way. Aruba is a generally flat, riverless island located about 20 kilometers north of Venezuela and has a dry climate and an arid, cactus-strewn landscape. Because it has almost no rainfall, Aruba was saved from the plantation system and the economics of the slave trade. Aruba really is one happy island. It's actually quite nice to have the occasional day at sea. You can chat with Captain P.J. van Morik or not. Or take part in the many ship's activities like Tai Chi. As I said, food is one of the main attractions on the ship, and that's when you find the decks nearly deserted, around dinner time, when everyone rushes to one of the several dining rooms on board. And now for the highlight of the cruise, the Panama Canal. The Westerdam stationed itself already overnight for the pre-booked transit through the canal. It was very early in the morning, around 5 a.m., when we approached the breakwaters of Limon Bay to line up for our approach to the first set of locks. And seabirds playing tag with the fish were our entertainment on the lengthy approach. The canal is 80 meters long and consists of artificial lakes, several improved and artificial channels, and 3 sets of locks. Each of the locks has 2 lanes. Water lifts ships 26 meters above sea level to the level of Gatun Lake in their transit of the channel across the continental divide, and then lower them back to sea level on the opposite side of the isthmus. Though vessels use their own propulsion for the greater part of the Panama Canal transit, when passing through the locks they are assisted by electronic locomotives called mules, which use cables to align and tow the ships. Working in pairs, locomotives move on rails and keep the vessel in position within the lock's changes. Depending on its size, a vessel can require from 4 to 8 locomotives. The lock gates range from 47 to 82 feet high, are 65 feet wide, and 7 feet thick. Not surprisingly, they weigh from 400 to 700 tons each. These enormous gates are filled and emptied by gravity, water flowing through a series of 18-foot diameter tunnels, allowing the filling and emptying of a lock chamber in about 10 minutes. Each ship passing through the waterways requires 197 million liters of fresh water to operate the locks. This water then flows into the sea. To have enough water in Gatun Lake, the central part of the Chargers River is dammed by the Gatun Dam and forms Gatun Lake. A quick hello to our 3 travel friends from Victoria, and we are at Gatun Locks. Once through the 3-stage Gatun locks, we enter Gatun Lake and wait for our assigned position in the long line of waiting vessels to transit the Gaylord Cut. The concept of a canal through Panama dates to the early 16th century. The first attempt to construct a canal began in 1880 under French leadership, but was abandoned after 21,900 workers died and landslides. The United States launched a second effort, incurring a further 5,600 deaths, but succeeded in opening the canal in 1914. It is now named one of the 7 modern wonders of the world. Navigation markers are used by the pilots to keep the ships on due course. The Gaylord Cut is the narrowest stretch of the canal and slices 12.6 kilometers through the Continental Divide at an altitude of 26 meters above sea level. Construction and dredging goes on constantly because of the massive amount of rain the area receives, as well as unstable soil and landslides. The Centennial Bridge spans the Gaylord Cut and is only the second major road crossing of the Panama Canal. Small service bridges are built into the lock structures as mirror floors and gatun locks, but these bridges are only usable when the lock gates are closed and have limited capacity. From the main level of the canal, we are lowered 9.5 meters through the single-stage Pedro Miguel lock to the artificial Miraflores Lake. The expansion of the Panama Canal is a project that will double the capacity of the Panama Canal by 2014 by allowing more and larger ships to transit. The project will create a new lane of traffic along the canal by constructing 2 new lock complexes, excavation of new access channels, and widening and deepening of existing navigational channels. In the last part of the descent, we are lowered by the 2-stage Miraflores lock system back to sea level. The Bridge of the Americas crosses the Pacific approach to the Panama Canal at Balboa, near Panama City. It connects North America with South America and is part of the Pan-American Highway or Inter-American Highway, which extends from Alaska to the southern tip of Argentina. Before exiting the canal on the Pacific Ocean side, we passed Panama City, which is the capital and largest city of the Republic of Panama. Panama City, with its impressive skyline, is a hub for international banking and commerce and has been among the top 5 places for retirement in the world. I guess we will have to look into that more closely. After nearly 14 hours, we have reached the breakwaters of the Pacific. The canal is presently handling more vessel traffic than had ever been envisioned by its builders. And in September 2010, the Chinese vessel Fortune Plum was the 1 millionth ship to transit. And by the way, the cost of our transit through the canal was about $330,000. Waiting for pilots to bring us through the buoyed channel to open sea, we were amused by the gimmicks of the seabirds, and quite frankly, after trying not to miss 1 minute of the Panama Canal crossing, we were now looking forward to the next day, a more relaxing day at sea. Cruising towards Golfo Dulce, we were watching out for sea turtles or whales. But what do we get? A coconut. For pre-clearance into Costa Rica, a boat full of customs agents with family arrived, all for a free meal. Golfo Dulce is the name of a narrow inlet in Costa Rica, with pristine beaches, many of which have become major nesting sites for 3 species of turtles. Despite being overcast the whole day, we could enjoy the quiet waters of the Gulf and its mangroves, and appreciate the coastal cliffs and the hills covered with humid virgin rainforests with its intense and diverse tropical flora and fauna. One of the artists that you actually could film during performance, Maria King, a great pianist from the UK. We were also treated to an Indonesian and Filipino crew show, and I don't know who had more fun at those shows, the passengers or the crew.